Hope Channel, changing lives.
Hello, my beautiful, beautiful family. I bring you greetings in the name of Jesus. Say amen to wherever you are. Yes, we are glad again to come into your homes. And the program you are about watching is Love at Home. On Love at Home, our interest is to help, inspire, motivate you so that we can all prepare our families from children, from grandparents, from husbands, from wives, so that we all be fit to meet our Savior. You know, today's world, preparing families has not been easy. There are so many issues bothering families, and that is why on Love at Home, we seek to discuss and address some of these issues. Today's episode is going to be another wonderful program, and my name is Efia Sewa Mansa. Let me invite you that you can join us on Facebook and also on YouTube, and also send in your contributions or questions to 0559-680066, which is our WhatsApp line. On this note, I officially welcome you. Remember to call in your friends. Yes, time has soon. It is time. Call them, the children. Let all of them be seated. All join us in case you are driving. Let's go for a quick break. And when we come back, we start with a discussion. I'm glad to be with you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thank you.
There are people out there who need Jesus. The only way they are going to be touched is through the power of the gospel. Remember, you are the hands, mouth, and feet of Jesus Christ.
Let's do this together.
The Adventist Church, mission-driven purpose, and Hope Channel brings to you Living with Hope. 9 days of transformation and empowerment, starting on the 1st to 9th December 2023, 6:30 p.m. each night, live in all Seventh-day Adventist churches and also on Hope Channel and its social media handles. Share the word, tell a colleague, invite a friend. Living with Hope, 9 days of transformation and empowerment.
Viewer, you are welcome to Love at Home on Hope TV. Yes, on this show, we learn and unlearn and learn. Why don't you call in your friends? Thank you so much. Today's discussion is about the society and abuse. Are there really, do we see abuse in our societies? Where can they be found? Are they in our marriages? Are they in their homes? Are they in schools? Where can we see them? Even at workplace, sometimes we see them. And that is why there is the need for us to discuss this important topic. Somebody or you may be going through this. And as family members, we need to talk about this so that the family will be complete. That is why today we are talking about society and abuse. And I have wonderful personalities with me here to help me digest into this issue. On my far left, I have a very beautiful woman. Very, very beautiful. You see, she started smiling and laughing. Yes. She goes by the name Dr. Emmanuel Nana Abba Labi. She's a surgical resident at Greater Accra Regional Hospital. Mami Abba.
Yes.
God.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
When I spoke with you, you said you were too busy today.
I am.
I hope your patients are okay.
They are.
They are.
Yes.
To God be the glory. And your day was good.
My day has been stressful,
but
I thank God I was able to make it.
Oh, to God be the glory.
I'm happy to be with you.
Oh, I'm also happy. Thank you so much.
Thank
you for coming.
Thank
My other special guest is Elder Johnson Obuarike Omadime. He is a life coach, a relationship expert, and a literature evangelist. Elder.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah.
To God be the glory. By God's grace, we are all fine. How was your day?
The day was very fine. I'll be praying, hoping to meet you in this program and for us to speak to our viewers to hear what the good Lord will have us study. So I'll be praying the whole day, and I'm glad I'm here.
That's good. So God has answered your prayer.
Amen.
Yes, and we thank you so much for coming. So Dr. Ella and Elder, thank you so much for responding to our call to share and help us learn on our show, because we need to prepare our families. It is very, very important. So let me start with you straight away. Do we really have abuse in our society?
We do.
Really?
We do. We do have an abuse in our society. One will ask, what is this abuse we are talking about? You agree with me that the subject of abuse is so broad. If we say we are talking about it, just 1 hour or even the whole evening will not be enough to exhaust all the angles of abuse. Because we have inappropriate usage of substance or a thing, as we see in substance abuse, in drug abuse, as we see in power abuse, even money abuse, to abusing someone as in causing injury or physical pain to somebody. It ranges from even disrespecting someone to seeing that the person actually has an injury or the person has a psychological trauma. So it is so broad, and there are lots of people who are being abused that they are not aware of.
You mean they themselves are not aware?
They are not aware.
How?
That they are being abused. And you know, education is the way to go. And that is why we are here.
Thank you.
So I'm just hoping that by the end of the program, our cherished viewers would have learned a lot.
Thank you.
Because there are abuses in our homes. Children are suffering from abuse. Old people are suffering from abuse. Our elderly people, and even our parents, our mothers, our wives, are going through some form of abuse that they are not even aware of. So, as you said, it's going to be a series of program discussing abuse. I'm sure by the end of your abuse season, people would have learned and identify that this is what I'm going through, and they will seek the appropriate help.
Thank you.
Also, the people who abuse us, they are very close to us. Yes, some of them are family members, some of them are trusted friends, or even paid carers who we put our trust in. But you know that abuse can even be unintentional. Most of it is intentional, but sometimes it's unintentional, and that's why people are not even able to tell that I'm being abusive or I'm being abused.
I'll be with you shortly. You hold on there. Now, Elder.
Yes, please.
She's been talking, she agreed to the fact that abuse exists.
Yeah.
What is abuse?
Essentially, abuse is a state wherein a human being decides to manhandle another human being, or uses a cruel language, or does something which is not the best interest of the other human being. You know, we were all created in the image of God. As soon as we treat objects or human beings in a way that God ordinarily wouldn't treat them. We reduce them to a level that God will not be pleased with. Abuse in itself is nothing far from misuse of that which is noble, what is dignified. For example, you are with me, created in the image of God, and I know you are a daughter of God. I am also a son of God. If I treat you in a way that will not give you the joy that you yearn for in life, and then I would have reduced your value, not even in your eyes alone, but in the eyes of God, and in the eyes of others. And so to abuse someone is to treat the person in an unfair way, in a way that the creator of the individual wouldn't treat the person. And because it's society and abuse, it boils down to the fact that there are different kinds of people in society. And a society is just a number of persons who live together. They may have similar or dissimilar interests, but so long as they are living together, they want to achieve goals, they are likely going to treat one another in ways that are not very pleasant. And any unpleasant treatment that one human being gives to another who is created in the image of God constitutes abuse.
Wow. Now, Doctor, you realize that you and Elder, you said the same thing. He mentioned the fact that if somebody treats somebody in a way or in a manner that is not befitting of to be treated for as a human being or any living thing is an abuse. So does that mean, apart from the physical injuries you see somebody having, there are other things that are also not good because we are treating the person in a weird way?
Yes. We have different forms of abuse or different types of abuse. Apart from the physical abuse, whereby you inflict physical injury to the person, there is also sexual abuse, whereby there is non-consensual sexual contact. Two people do not agree or have not come into any agreement that we are going to have any sexual intimacy or contact, but one person forces the other person. It comes in different ways, even from rape to coerced masturbation, or even some form of penetrating or touching somebody in an inappropriate manner. So for instance, you have a student, a female student in a university or even in the senior high schools, and the lecturer or head teacher would say, if you want a very good marks, or if you want high marks, or you want to do well in my course, then I need you to show yourself naked in camera, or I want to touch here, I want to touch there, I want to see this, and forces the person to go naked or even have a sexual affair with the person. It constitutes sexual abuse. There are other forms of abuse like neglect, child abuse. We have even discriminatory abuse.
Wow.
In terms of your identity. People can abuse you because you are young,
in a certain area,
or you are so age-wise, so your gender, probably because you are female, or even from a certain society or a certain tribe or from a certain country. They all constitute abuse. So abuse is so broad and it comes in different forms. Verbal abuse is there. You find someone who is always receiving insults from either a superior or even the parents. Yes, psychological abuse, mental abuse, whereby you undermine the person's well-being, mental well-being, or emotions or feelings to the extent that the person develops low self-esteem. They are all forms of abuse.
Okay, thank you. Elder, she's been mentioning physical abuse, mental abuse, and all that. I want example. How do I know that, Or how do we see that this person is going through mental abuse?
You see, there is one very important thing about human beings. When you are being treated with love, let's bear in mind that our program is Love at Home.
Love at Home.
Love at
yes.
Home. There is no human being that is being treated with kindness who refuses to accept it in that form. If I treat you with kindness, you respond very positively to it. Another issue which is very, very fundamental with human beings, as we live, we want to achieve our life goals. And so, supposing someone is a wife and comes into a home with every commitment, loves the husband, and instead of the husband extending the love that he used to extend before they got married, and the man begins to spend so much time outside the family circle, is no longer paying attention to the wife. The simple courtesies, which may even be verbal, the I love you that he used to mention almost 1,000 times in a day, will not come once, even in that in a particular day.
That one too is abuse.
Yes. At the end of the day, at the end of the day,
yes.
at the end of the day, love is being gradually withdrawn by the one who used to be so close to you.
Okay.
It constitutes neglect.
Okay.
And that was what Doc just said.
Was talking about.
And so if you are being neglected by someone who ordinarily has shown you love in time past, you realize that at the end of the day, you will feel you are being neglected. And that neglect is not the best. It goes on to the point of emotional abuse, because in our cultural setting, if someone talks with you, you begin to feel important. How important will you feel if you speak with me as we are sitting here and I decide not to respond?
Hey,
and so I think that in our homes, we need to learn to talk.
That is true.
Because as you talk, you communicate values. You make people feel important. Besides that, there is institutional abuse, where employees may lord it over the employers may lord it over employees. We need to look at that. If you look at that angle too, you realize that even children may be neglected by their parents. Okay. It is the love that we are not expressing very well that is the cause of the problem. At the end of the day, she even mentioned a low self-esteem. I will have low self-esteem if I realize that I am not being treated fairly, and if I have genuine concerns, they are not being listened to.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to be mindful of this in our homes and even in our churches.
Yeah. Thank you. Now, Doctor, are there any effects on these abuse that we are talking about, apart from the physical pain or fixed injuries that we may be seeing on our bodies? You mentioned the mental, the psychological. What else?
So it comes with the type of abuse. You would have a short-term effect or a long-term effect.
So the short-term will be like what?
So as you said, with the physical ones, you're going to have wounds, you're going to have injuries, that you go to the hospital for treatment, or you might not even get the opportunity to go to the hospital for treatment. You might contract, for sexual abuse, you can contract sexually transmitted infections. You can have unwanted pregnancies out of sexual abuse. Some of the mental abuse, you will lack concentration. You will not understand anything in class. You cannot focus on your work, so you will not be productive wherever you find yourself. You can go through a lot of even post-traumatic stress disorder, whereby because of the abuse, anything you see can trigger memories of what you experience, and that will be a long-term effect.
Okay.
You can have other psychological or even some mental disorder, depending on what you went through or the kind of abuse that was meted out to you.
Wow. So in the case of children who cannot really express themselves, how are you able to monitor or measure to know the kind of abuse they are going through?
I think it's very easy to measure some of these things. There are children in the homes. You realize that the child becomes very quiet, very reserved. The child closes from school, goes straight into the room. And the child keeps friends that ordinarily he or she would not have wanted. And you realize that at the end of the day, when the parents are not having a very cordial relationship, it has a replay effect. Yeah. And the effect will be, one, you realize that there's no prayer in the family, because when the family prays, at the end of the day, there'll be peace in the home. And when they study the Word of God, there's also going to be peace in the home. Because there's no way you will live together, you pray together, and you study the Word of God together, that the abuse will be consistent. Because what we refer to as abuse now is something that is not in the interest of the other person, that is being repeatedly done. If it's being repeated and it's not in the interest of the other person that ordinarily would have loved to be in your presence, you realize that it constitutes abuse. And I think that we have to look at it in a very holistic way. Okay. If we go back to the beginning of the world, when Adam and Eve decided to cover themselves with the leaves, where did they get the leaves from? They were not made for that purpose. God, in his own wisdom, has created us to be united, to be loving, to be compassionate, to be social. And if we decide not to go that way, we abuse one another, particularly when we want to make when we are making life choices. And I think that every man or every woman who is born into a family needs to realize that any other human being in that same family is equally important. In fact, I recall that in the Constitution of Ghana, if you recall that Act 12 of the 1992 Constitution, it says that no one should be made a servant. Okay. It is not allowed. As soon as you reduce the value of someone in his own eyes based on how you assess the person, it means you have abused the person. And that is not good in the eyes of God. We must project the image of God in people. They may not necessarily be perfect based on our assessment, but we must help them to come up. We must add value to people. We must not devalue them. Any form that it takes, whether domestic, whether sexual, whether psychological, whether tribal, it is not good for people who are waiting for the soon return of Jesus Christ.
Thank you. Yes,
so,
please add
to
on.
add to what Elder said, you realize that a child will be missing out from school and will come back one day with probably a plaster on the hand or on the forehead. You ask the child, what happened to you? And the child is not able to explain well what happened, or is not willing to even say exactly what happened. Or even the child comes to the hospital and you talk to the person, you realize that whatever he's explaining doesn't match with the extent of injury. Then it should give you an idea that there is some sort of abuse going on. You realize the child is so timid, but on a normal day, this child wouldn't be timid. You see that the child changes behavior whenever he sees a particular person, or starts going quiet, becoming quiet, or trying to hide. Then you should know that something is going on. The child is not able to talk well when he sees a particular type of person or someone in the family. All that will let you pick up, aside the injuries that the person is having. You meet this child every time the child has a bandage on one part of the body or the other. And you ask the child, and the child will tell you, oh, I was playing and I fell down. How come you are always falling? You should know that there is an abusive person who is always pushing that person. And so the person is always falling, always sustaining injuries here or there. That will give you an idea that something is going on.
I think in addition to that, we must not also forget that children are very inquisitive. They do not constitute the silent majority in the home. When a child sees something that is not very good, children are in the habit of speaking out.
Yeah.
You even see through facial expression that this child doesn't like this. Oh, mommy, this one. And daddy, why?
They can't hide.
So they can't hide.
Their
so as soon
feelings.
as you notice it, I think the essence of all that we are saying is to build a better home, to build a cordial relationship. There must be that cordiality between daddy and mommy, and mommy and daddy will hold the children in high esteem, recognizing that they were given to us by God to treat them well, not to abuse them. If we look at abuse from that very fundamental point, I believe that our homes will be little heaven here on earth.
Amen.
And I think that is the goal of this program.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank
you
you.
said it all.
Thank
Now,
you
I
very
want to know, why do people abuse others? Why?
You know, there are people who want to just exercise power.
Hey,
They want to always feel they are on top of others. They always want to suppress people. They enjoy being masters. And some of them, the only way they can do that is to abuse the other person. When they find out that you are vulnerable, you are unable to talk for yourself, you are having some communication difficulties or not able to express yourself well, then they take advantage of you. They know that this is my time to shine. There are people who want to feel they are the boss everywhere they go. Yes. Others too, they want to take certain things away from you, your happiness, your peace. And there are others, as I said earlier, they don't even know that they are abusing. They feel like they have to survive. And that's the only way. There are people who have even had that experience in their lives.
yeah.
Yes. And so that's how they've
been
brought up. That's what they've experienced. And so it has become normal to them that wherever they go, they will also exercise the same thing. So they don't even know that what they are doing is wrong. Some of them also know, but because they are used to, or they picked it up in the society, or wherever they are living in the community, that's their way of life. They also continue that way. That's how you find a lot of people being abusive.
Yeah, so Elder, in a typical scenario, how can someone be abusive? I agree that sometimes children learn by observation, by what parents do. So I want you to create a picture for us to understand why we see some of these things in our societies.
It's something that is as old as the Garden of Eden. It looks a little difficult to explain, but let's go to this kind of scenario, go through this. God made man, an apportioned man, his diet, told him, this is what you should eat. The day you eat this one, you will surely die. But there was a lie along the line that, oh, he will not surely die. But when he ate it, did he die? He died. And so I think the issue has to do with, one, what Doc just said, the culture that we find ourselves. We are gradually promoting a culture of violence. When we say domestic violence, we can talk of political violence, we can talk of social violence, we can talk of all kinds of, but it begins from the home. And the first home where there was happiness, but because of abuse, changed to the opposite direction, was the Garden of Eden. And so I still want to say that if you look at what we eat today, so many children are hyper. And so the child grows, is the same child who will grow into an adult, who will marry. And so the one who was very hyper, who was very, very aggressive, marries. What do you expect? And so when I was coming today, I came with a book, Healthy Body by Dr. Jagdeep Papluna-Ahuja. Beginning from page 90 of the book, the man looks at aggression and diet. If you eat in a certain way which is not really proper to the constitution that God has given to us, there's every likelihood that the person may be aggressive, particularly when the social milieu where the person lives promotes aggressive tendencies,
Okay.
abusive tendencies. For example, there are certain films that if we watch, you realize that they promote aggression. A lot of things on the internet, they promote aggression, abuse. The sound, the tone of voice. And most of these things are emanating from the fact that we have allowed ourselves to degenerate to the state where God needs to help us. And that was why Jesus came, to redeem us so that the abusive tendencies in us are dropped and we now pick the loving nature of Jesus Christ. And so I believe that we must do everything possible to really treat one another with kindness. If I notice there's something in you which I seem not to like, the best way to deal with it is to handle it the way Jesus handled those who will be abused. Let's not forget that in Jesus' time, other nations were enslaving his people. And so they expected that Jesus was going to pay them back. But Jesus never did that. All he did was that where people were unkind, he showed them compassion. When people were not loving, he brought love into the scene. I think that is what we need, not only in our homes, we need that even within ourselves. My dear, to end this, you know that some of us do not treat ourselves with the dignity we deserve.
You mean our own bodies?
Our own bodies. For example, why must I look down on what God has deposited in me?
Okay.
You are so unique. Dog is unique. And I wouldn't say I am not unique because we were created in the image of God. And anytime I treat any other human being as if he or she was not created in the image of God, I am really dehumanizing the person. And that is not good. We are only using abuse. If we say murder, you realize that someone will say you've gone too far. But thou shalt not kill is also there. Because if I speak to dog in a way that is not fine and she doesn't really like it and I keep doing it and I keep doing it and she says, no, this is not too good, please stop, and I keep doing it, that is not the best for a Christian.
Yeah, Doc, you wanted to add something when he was talking?
No.
You are okay. All right. Okay. My lovely viewer, the topic is so interesting. We are discussing society and abuse in our homes or in our societies. And as they had already enumerated, there are so many forms of abuse and we need to be cautious of them. Then we can take pragmatic steps in solving them. Let's go for a quick break. As we go for the break, enjoy and we'll be back shortly. Thank you.
There are people out there who need Jesus. The only way they are going to be touched is through the power of the gospel. Remember, you are the hands, mouth, and feet of Jesus Christ.
Let's do this together.
The Adventist Church, mission-driven purpose, and Hope Channel brings to you Living with Hope. 9 days of transformation and empowerment, starting on the 1st to 9th December 2023, 6:30 p.m. each night, live in all Seventh-day Adventist churches and also on Hope Channel and its social media handles. Share the word, tell a colleague, invite a friend. Living with Hope, 9 days of transformation and empowerment.
la 11-11-23 silver ruby enije nkwa asida Kenya media wire no so yenu abema inspector this sankuman michire Mr. Emmanuel Birako panyi kwankyerefo a oda divine krogan no nyame dumu wo hye ne dwom kyerɛ ne dwom kyerɛ ase no emfie aduonum nio ɛne emfie aduane ya nyame ayi odredi di akyerɛ no na yenyina ye bochenku ye bodem Kumasi Prempa Assembly Hall ne yakwa gie ne we are going to celebrate a legend nyame ba nyame ya do bo ne bo so me no ne da to so di ba ko afipinu ne aduonum ye se ya me kyerɛ 11th November 2023 no 9 pepepepepepe ne nyina ye kyeshem wo Prempa Assembly Hall brawati na ye gie ni adwomfo atwotwo pa na betitre ene enintiri mame fa bi ntudwa ne tie divine kuragana na emu babio na onim omo dwom de don ko a Celestial City Choir Gethsemane Methodist Junior Choir Takwa Kerala Universal ya person ofitogume womo so babio yenu abema Joel Brand Edu or baby Little Cherry so baby any baby pray I kika ho enti tire ne ani tira wo mo kira dwom o man Ghana mu no wo mo nyina eba James Varick Ama ofri Harmonious Choral yenu abema Emmanuel Ayi or Symphonious Ghana yaw owusu asiama wono se Celestial City Choir yenu Derek Asari entry one voice choir and a bright kekele was so from Kedele Unité Togolese to Omunina Omu baby and Yasan Ketro a Nijian Kwa Brian I would try day Yami Aduma Ubetua 50 Ghana cedi pe Esha Mewa 50 Ghana cedi who don't any artiso but what Nina I am come na yen so person would do take it as some point and run a drop but Modena was star 928 star 528 hash Bomodene na eto ticket no ana say ubetumi afre 054118398 ana say 02410821919 brawati yenyina ye kabom ye celebrating legend na oba usika be ye ni anumo ye de koboa kamwe dwumadie no na dia konkrase ne akwakobo no de divine kora afibia wo ye sa pepepe na afie be ye eye nigie nko brawati ne yenyina nkamom eye nigie o Silver Ruby we are going to celebrate a legend.
Hello, my lovely viewer. You are welcome back, and we are discussing society and abuse on Hope Channel, and the program is Love at Home. Thank you so much. And before we left for break, we were discussing the types of abuse. We've mentioned the emotional, the psychological, the physical, where we see pains or injuries on our bodies and all that. But Dr. Ella, which category of people do we normally abuse them and why?
Okay. You know, one thing that will interest you is abuse, or anybody at all can suffer from abuse. Yes. It's not a respecter of age or educational background or your pedigree in the society, your status. No. Anyone at all can be a victim of abuse. But we have some groups of people that are common.
Okay.
The people that we normally see are vulnerable people, like women and children. But you have people, as I said earlier, who are having communication difficulties, like people who cannot talk at all, or they have some sort of disabilities. We have people who are being catered for, or they need care, they need financial support, and because of that, they face these abuses.
Okay.
We have people who are easy targets. For instance, if you have a man who is abusive, it's easier for that man to abuse either his wife or child than to abuse his friend. Yes. So they are easy targets. So when he's angry and he needs somebody to slap,
displacement, you are the first point.
You are the first point. If he wants to satisfy his anger, or because he has lost control, he's not able to manage his anger well, and he needs to do something, then the next person who is closer will be the wife. You are the one who receive the beatings. And it's after that that he realized, no, I'm going too far. Let me relax. But this same person will go out and not be seen as an abusive person. Yeah. So people who are easy targets, people who are vulnerable, people who are being cared for, people that we support in society, people who are not capable of taking care of themselves, like the elderly. You see that there will be somebody, even in the north, we're saying that our old women were witches, we're camping them. They are all forms of abuse, but we think it's culture and we are maintaining culture. These are things that we have to look at. Because a child cannot communicate, doesn't have the voice to speak for himself or herself. Anytime he suffers an abuse, no one notices. He's not able to tell anyone. So it keeps going on. That's how come people become targets of abuse.
Olga, do you want to add something? If no, then I want to know, what should one do when he's been abused, he or she?
You see, it depends on the kind of abuse. To just add to what she said, a research was done on child abuse, for example, in Ghana. And 90% of the children between ages 2 to 14, they realized that 88% of them, when they grew up to a certain stage, they had psychological aggressive tendencies, which meant that at the end, at a point, because they were being beaten, it became something that they picked within themselves, that at the end of the day, if this was meted out to me, I also need to do same to another person. It becomes a law of an eye for an eye. Yeah. And so, like she was saying, I want to believe that we have to speak against it, which is education. We need to get people to talk at the very level of the family. And then we also need to get people to look at the issue of abuse in our churches. Okay. And so, if you look at some of the things we can do from the point of view of the family, then the society at large, because we have levels in our society. For example, a group of people can say, okay, we are in one community. Let us have a women's society. Okay. And so they do things the same way. If one decides to talk rudely to another, that person is abusive, which is just verbal. If someone decides to take pictures of someone just to show to another to ridicule the person, it also constitutes abuse. But beyond that, there are domestic violence cases. In Ghana, we cannot say we are Christians. If we realize we cannot manage it at the family level, it is good we also resort to the usage of the state apparatus. We have DOSUDE. The one who is the victim should report humbly, and they have people who handle these things. They are professionals. They could advise, then they invite the perpetrator of the abuse, and they are spoken to, and there's a proper reconciliation. And the one who's perpetrating it is told not to continue the abuse. Some cases have been solved in that regard. But there are other forms of abuse, like the institutional ones that we also find in Ghana here. We have the STRAJ. You can take your case there. They have lawyers. They can talk with you. And at the end of the day, the cases are settled amicably. That is why the state is there. The church has a role to play. Families also have roles to play. Individuals also have roles to play. At the level of the individual, we need to encourage people to have a healthy self-esteem. And one way of having a healthy self-esteem, she is married, and I am also married. I believe that at the end of the day, even while you're asking us these questions, her relationship with her husband, my relationship with my wife, will determine to a very large extent if our children will be abusive. So I think it's about knowing that we are all human beings created in the image of God, and we are people with all-round dignity. In this part of the world, the issue of culture must also be looked into. Where I grew up, if a man speaks and a woman wants to say, okay, this is my opinion, that opinion very sincerely was not welcomed. And the only reason it was not welcomed was that the person was going to speak the way women speak. And I grew up in that setting. But it took Jesus Christ to change my mentality. Okay. When I am speaking and my wife is speaking, it's the same mouth we are using to speak. And mine is no higher in terms of value. She makes a point and I also make mine. I am sinful, but I am also praying to love my wife more. But I think the idea is that let's not look down on another. Okay. If someone is guilty or doing what is wrong, do not abuse the person. Right. The best thing to do is to help the person. Is to be compassionate. Because sometimes we think we are helping the person who is already wounded. And we wound the person the more. Thank you so much. I think we must discontinue any form.
I was even going to ask you something about you.
Yeah, to add to what Elder said, the first thing as Christians is to pray. Prayer can solve most of the abuse that we face in this country. We have made verbal abuse normal. But we can report that.
Especially on the road with drivers. They'll just give it to you. And you wonder what they're talking about.
Exactly. But we can report. We have made emotional abuse normal. Intimidation, harassment, they are all forms of mental or emotional insults, calling names, raining curses. We have, I don't know, demean some people. They are living knowing that they are not good enough. Oh. They know that they cannot do anything or they cannot become successful in life. And it's all because they have been abused mentally. We are supposed to report whenever we see some of these things.
But you realize that in most of our homes, the moment you want to report some of these issues, you are told, hey, as for this family, we don't send our matters out. This is what we've been doing. This is what we've been going through. Your grandmother went through. Your mother, I went through. Or probably she's still going through. Why must you take it out? What do we do in this case?
See, that's why we are learning and we keep educating ourselves. It's because of lack of knowledge. That is why people behave that way. There was this movie about abuse whereby it's the same thing you said. There is I don't know how the marriage happened, but it could be that it was against the woman's wish. Yeah. But they were living together. The woman was very submissive though. But the man kept abusing her. And anytime she reports to her mother, because the mother is getting money from the man, it's like, let us manage, let us contain this. It can't go out until she lost her daughter. Yeah. And that was when she realized, oh, I should have done something about it. So we are supposed to build a support system. When you are going through something, tell another person. If your family is not ready to support you, you can tell another person, maybe your counselor, your pastor, your elder, or even someone in the community that you respect. Then as an individual person who is going through an abuse, you should also read a lot for yourself and know and identify the abuse that you are going through. Through that, you know some steps to take. You will know that you have to be calm and build your self-confidence. Okay. Somebody comes to you, and you know that anytime this man comes to me, the man is very abusive. So what do I do? Okay. The person talks to me anyhow. What do I do? So the next time the person comes and starts talking to you anyhow, you tell the person, mister, please, if you don't talk to me well, I will not answer you. I think if you are confident enough to say that, some of the abuses will end there. Okay.
I think I want to support.
But Ella, I'll come back to you with the
I want to add to what she said. I also believe that information management is key in some of these things. I agree with her. We have to pray. We have to study the Word of God. As soon as one comes in contact with another human being, if I'm in her presence for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, nothing is said about the husband. For me, I have a big question mark. You can't stay with me for any long time and I will not mention my wife's name. I'll let you know I'm married. And so any lady who comes in contact with me will begin to, like they say, she will have to check her brakes.
Yeah.
Besides that, I think that the management of any form of abuse starts with the individual. No man is an island. If you realize that you have a problem that you are not able to solve, the first person you should discuss with is your spouse. When she understands you, she's a human being. She will also pray and reflect on it. And at the end of the day, there will be an amicable solution. When that is not possible, talk to a professional. But before you do that, because of our culture, people tend to talk to people they trust.
Yeah.
It is not bad, but talk to that person. If that person will not say whatever you have said, will not treat it without confidence. If it's confidentially treated by that person, no problem. Yeah. But if you realize the person will not be able to, you cannot confide in the individual, talk to a professional. We have counselors all over. So many of them in my church, Come to 12 Church where I worship, so many counselors are there. And I have been encouraging my church members, talk to the professionals, the counselors, they are there. And so if you are not able to do that as well, then report the case. But if you are reporting a case and you have the backing of the church leaders, you have already made use of them. Our pastors are knowledgeable in this. In my conference, the pastors have been trained seriously in counseling, so you can talk to any of them and they will actually advise you. But to keep it to yourself, thinking that the abuse will stop soonest, is sitting on a time, it's like sitting on a time bomb. Yeah. I give a very practical example. I have one of my clients, one of my customers at Comte 12, Tema Comte 12, who lectures in one of the Ghanaian universities. Also had a friend who lives in Brazil. The woman has a PhD and the husband also has a PhD. The husband is an American and the woman is a Ghanaian. She had prepared that she will have to commit suicide. Oh. And the woman told me, the books we have were the books I introduced her to. You read this, you read this, you read this. She ordered them and they were sent to her in Brazil. After a few sessions, she changed her mind. Okay. And so I believe it's about knowing the problem. If the case of abuse is established, the best thing is to look for a solution. Yeah. And the solution is Jesus Christ. He uses other people to solve our problems. Before we know it, the problem is solved.
Yes, yes. Now, Dr. Ella, I am sure in your case or in your field of work, you sometimes will come across some of these things. How do you manage that?
Yes, apart from the physical abuse whereby we treat their injuries for them, the most commonest one would be sexual abuse. You find children, say 9-year-old child. 9? Yes, sometimes 10, sometimes 11. They'll come and they have been sexually assaulted and they refuse to even say. But through examination, probably the mother will bring her. My child came back from school today, will not even talk to me. It's quiet, or is crying all evening, and I don't understand. Or I was bathing my child, and I saw that her panty is stained with blood. I asked her, and she will not say anything. So when they come, you ask them, you realize that they are not able to talk. Sometimes we tell their parents to excuse us, and we find a way of questioning them, and they come out with whatever that happened. There are others too who would refuse to say no matter what. But when we examine them, we can see that there has been some form of abuse. Some of them will come with their hymen broken and they'll be bleeding, and with our professional knowledge, we're able to tell that something bad has gone on. Sometimes we are able to even detect that some sort of object has been inserted. Exactly. And the patient is still bleeding. When they come, we first of all give them the medical treatment. We examine them, we know the medicine to give, and then we counsel them. Then we refer them to the psychological unit, whereby they will receive some psychological counseling together with their parents. Yes. Some of them, when they go there, then they voice out. They are able to tell because they find a way of talking to them whereby they can confide.
They are experts.
They are experts, yes. So they tell them whatever that happened, and then we follow up with a police report. Okay. Yes. Some of these people have been arrested and charged because there are laws in this country. Yes, you'll be fined or even jailed depending on the offense. Yes. So that's how we manage most of these things. When, for the physical abuse, when they come, they themselves would have reported the case to the police. And so they come with a police form. Okay. And we also write what we have examined to be an evidence that the person was physically assaulted. Yes. And the police takes it up from there.
I think too that there's also a form of, like she is saying, the domestic violence side of abuse is very disturbing. Yeah,
we are going to be discussing this on Love at Home this month.
Very disturbing. Yeah. Nothing should make, I am married, why must I raise my hand on my wife? It is not allowed. You see, as soon as that is perpetrated in the home, the implication will be that you could easily commit murder. And it's a first-degree felony. It's an offense, which at the end of the day, so we are not supposed to kill another human being. And I think we must manage, we must keep talking to our people that we should live together in love. Love is the key. And I think when we do that, if we abuse one another, at the end of the day, we cannot glorify our Father who is in heaven.
That is true. That is very true.
We cannot.
Now, Dr. Ella, your last advice to my cherished viewers.
What I will tell our cherished viewers is that do not endure abuse. You should be able to speak out. Talk to someone or report the person and let the law handle the person. You are not to endure abuse. There is help for anyone who is going through abuse. You just need to talk to the appropriate person. And if there is a need to create a physical distance, please do. Just ask yourself, what is the relevance of the relationship? Or how is this person important to me? If the person is, say, a friend who always comes to you and as you are having a conversation, he's always abusing you physically or probably sexually, you can end that friendship. You don't need it. You don't need to go through that. If it is your wife or your husband, you cannot divorce the person. So talk to another person. And always try to create a safe exit for yourself. A friend is coming to visit, or my lecturer is coming to the classroom. I'm there alone. If he comes, he's going to touch me in an inappropriate manner. When I see that this thing is happening, this is what I will do. I will run away. I'll call somebody. I'll invite a third person. I would do this to protect myself. That is what we can do to also get away from abusive relationship.
Thank you. Yes. All right. Your final words.
I want to thank you so much. I believe that we must maintain a high sense of human dignity. That was not borrowed from anyone. So God created you in a very unique way. Created Dr. Ella in a very unique way. Created me in a very unique way. There are things that are unique in every individual. I think when we continue to perpetuate abuse, it's a sign of adding up the bad side of people. But when you keep counting the good that people are able to do from day to day, the evil that they tend to do diminishes. Yeah. But when we concentrate on the evil in human that we see in others, we cease to see what is also bad in us. Yeah. And so I think it starts from there. Let's promote healthy self-esteem. 2, let's ensure that whether you are the victim or you are the perpetrator, remember there is help. Those who keep abusing others, there is help. 1, there is help in Jesus. 2, there is help in another person who may be a trusted friend. 3, there is also help that can come to you from Hope TV. And that is why we are here, and that is why we are discussing this. I want to believe that most importantly, remember your life goal. You may not be in the best shape today. You may have been abused. Don't give up on yourself. Remain resolute. Hold on to God. Hold on to your life vision. Don't give up on yourself. And I want to promise my viewers that at the end of the day, if God holds your hand and you are even a thief ready to die on the cross, if you call on the Master, and he will remember you and he will save you.
Thank you so much. All too soon. My time is up. And I've been having this wonderful discussion with Dr. Emanuela Nana Abalabi. She's a surgical resident at Greater Accra Regional Hospital. Doc, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Helping us. We've learned a lot. And I'm sure from here we are going to put so many things in order so that we can change. Then we also have Elder Johnson Abuarike Omademe. He's a life coach and a relationship expert, and most importantly, a literature evangelist. My special guest,
yes, ma'am.
On behalf of Love at Home, we say thank you so much. We've enjoyed having you.
Thank
you to you out there, thank you so much for not leaving the dial. You've walked us through, you've supported us throughout, and we've all learned a lot. As you go, keep on discussing this topic, keep on sharing whatever you have learned. We need to talk about this. We need to communicate. Whatever problem you are going through, that is not the end. If you are an abuser, you can stop. If somebody is abusing you, there are ways that you can do. I mean, you can avoid it. Let's learn ways and means to manage them. Most importantly, from this topic, from this month, we are going to be talking more about abuse. Be in it social, psychological, sexual, child abuse, what have you. So please, do not leave us. Same time next week, we come into your homes again. And thank you for joining us. Until then, good night. Bye-bye.